Hey, this is Bridgette Lyn Dolgoff with Consciousness of Economics TV show on the Project Camelot TV network. And we are live today. It's Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific is when we have our show. Please look for the archive shows on the Project Camelot TV network website. And we're diligently working on getting a player so that all of our shows will just show one after another on the network. So hang in there with us and as we make the transition. Anyway, so today I am with James Needham. And he is someone that I found through the grapevine. I was emailing people looking for people who kind of fit into the show's topics, which is shamanism and ceremonial work, indigenous ways, prophecy, food as medicine, nutrition, farming, all those kinds of wonderful topics. And I was looking for a Mayan man that I had sort of kind of been following in 2012 who had come up to the United States and was doing some teachings. And I sent out an email trying to find out about where this man's whereabouts were. And that's how I ran into James. And James was the one that emailed me back. And we began kind of an email dialogue. And it was apparent from the get-go that James and I were like-minded and that I should have him on the show. So a couple of the things that really triggered me with James were they're working on a community, creating an organic farm. He spent 40 years of his life following the Vedic traditions from India. And he also has done some work with the indigenous people south of the border, Mayan people. And so I really wanted to have him on and talk to him about how he is doing all this, talk to him about his past. So I'm just going to go ahead and welcome him now. Hi, James. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having your interest in my passions.
Yeah. Well, hopefully someday soon you'll have a website. So if we have you on the future, you'll have a website where people can come and actually, find you and look for.
Actually, we have a domain site, but we haven't started to work on it. It's actually MayaVeda.com, but it's under construction. But it'll be coming in the future. MayaVedaBaha.com.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. So do you want to give us a little bit of history about yourself, kind of like how you've maneuvered yourself to where you're at now?
Sure. It's been a long and wonderful journey. I'll start most recently with the work in Mexico. It was quite a find before 2012. It was about 2009 or 10 when my wife and I were introduced to the Maya. We've been living in Mexico at that time for probably 15 years, and we're familiar with some of the groups, and we were very drawn to the indigenous people here. But as you already said, my background was from the East, was from the Vedic tradition, which it seemed to me very, very much removed from Western indigenous cultures. It just never really resonated with me. I never gave it much thought and never really resonated with me. And then we stumbled onto the Mayan teaching, and I was very much overwhelmed, not at the similarity between the Mayan and and when I speak of Maya, this whole time I'll be speaking of the ancient Maya. The ancient Mayan teachings and culture, I found to not be similar to the Vedic, but to actually be the same, as impossible as that sounds. The actual concepts, everything that I knew experientially turned out to be the same. So that was like the greatest gift, to discover this in my own backyard and open up a whole new career of consciousness, so to speak. And we worked, my wife and I, for pretty intensely for the 4 or 5 years preceding and through 2012, doing ceremonial work, frequency work. And in that time, we traveled all over mainland Mexico, in and out of indigenous communities, and not just indigenous, but all walks of religion and philosophy and new thinking, old thinking, ancient tradition, new tradition. And it was just wonderful exposure, wonderful work. And we felt that it came very much to a conclusion and a fulfillment after 2012. And we just kind of thought, what do we do now? And we thought we'll kick back for a year and just rest, because it had been quite grueling, and see what comes up. And what came up is we have a daughter living in Baja, South Baja, Mexico. And so we came for a visit, and we'd never been to this section of Mexico, directly south of California. And something just opened up here, something quite amazing. There was a culture here, what I like to call a root culture. They left evidence, phenomenal cave paintings and overhang cliff artwork that just drew me in. It still fascinates me and has me captivated today. And it was present when the indigenous, when the Western conquerors, the conquest arrived in Baja. The native peoples here could only speak very little about the people who'd been here before them. And they said that they came from the north and that they were giants, and that they left these remarkable cave paintings and etchings and things. So the indigenous people 300 years ago really didn't even know about these people, and yet they've left these amazing paintings and etchings that to me have a significance today. I haven't unraveled the mystery of them, but I'm very, very drawn to that. And I'd been searching in the United States, actually, for a location to establish a ceremonial center. Thought I would do it there, and then it became clear that after making several tours around the United States, that it just wasn't the right time, and the place really just didn't present itself. And then, bam, here in, of all places, in South Baja, it just opened up and became very clear that that's where I would be doing this work.
So I'm just going to go back to something you said. So what kind of, actually, one of the things that I've learned, exactly like what you talked about, was how different, like, studying some parts of Hinduism and stuff like that, that is a lot like the indigenous people. They're all about the sacred fire. They have a lot of, chanting and singing and things like that to help activate energies and things like that. They're all also about the frequency, the frequency of everything that you're putting out and how that ripples. You start to realize that all indigenous people, or people who are very old, their genetics are very old, there's a similar theme. Mm-hmm. That the medicine, if you will, is all the same, really, right. in a lot of ways, which I think it's amazing to me. Sometimes you just kind of are shocked. It kind of blows you over when you first start realizing like how similar a lot of the ancient ways are. So,
sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So also too, I was going to ask you, so before 2012, you guys were doing a lot of, you started working with the ancient Mayan people and their medicines, and you were doing a lot of ceremonies and frequency work. Do you want to talk about some of the work you were doing?
These were, principally we worked with a man who had a mission of opening what he called three portals of light. And it was work that was given to him, I believe, because it just kind of, his name came up in the DNA chain. It fell to him for this particular time to do this work in preparation for 2012. And so he was basically being told, basically channeled information from Mayan ancestors, almost like an errand boy. Go here, do this, do that. And he was able to decode and receive information about the Mayans' ancient technology and how it worked to open these portals and things. And so he was given geometries, similar what we would call today labyrinths, different techniques, different oh boy, it's hard to explain. It was totally outside the context of any particular philosophy, belief, religion, or permanent structure. It was even to establishing anything permanent. It was a very temporary work that needed to be done at the end of the cycle that ended in 1992, which, people tend to think it ended in 2012, that was a big change, but it really, according to the ancient Mayan calendar and the ancient Mayas, it ended in 1992, and then there was a 20-year period, which they called no time. It's a measure of time of 20-year period on the calendars at Katun, and a 20-year period of adjustment where this work needed to be done as we moved in then to the opening of the new age in 2012. And the labyrinth or the geometry work was quite fascinating, and even has, I believe, application today. I've built one of the labyrinths already up on our land. I guess the easiest way is just tell you how it works, what we actually did. And that is, it's called the Mirror of Orion Labyrinth, and it's a series of 6 concentric circles. Just imagine a labyrinth where people are walking, but within these 6 circles that people are walking to arrive to the center point are 6 smaller circles that we call circles of activation. And in each one of those areas of activation, there would be different frequency things going on. For instance, one is an area of silent meditation. Another is an area of vocal meditation. Another is an area of percussion instruments like drums and rattles and that sort of thing. Another area was wind instruments like flutes and conchas, and all these things designed that creates different levels, different frequencies. Another area was of healing, like Reiki and people who moved energy with their hands and that sort of thing. Another area was movement, like Tai Chi and yoga. And another was an ultrasound area of like crystal bowls and that sort of thing. And the ceremony was opened. People entered into this labyrinth, and a number of people went to the specific areas and started, say, sitting in their silent meditation, or drumming, or playing a wind instrument, or doing movement, or whatever these things are, while the other people were walking the labyrinth. And so it was like a machine that got turned on, and all these frequencies were being generated. And the important thing was to have as many people from as many different traditions as possible. So everybody was invited and encouraged to come and sought out to come. So we had always any number of indigenous tribes on the mainland, from Nahuatl, Huichol, Mayan, various ones. We had Hare Krishnas, we had Catholics, we had various New Age kind of groups people would be there, and everybody respected in doing their own thing. In the silent meditation, you could have had someone in there doing transcendental meditation with a mantra. You could have had somebody reciting the rosary to themselves. You could have had somebody doing a Buddhist thing. You could have had somebody doing some indigenous thing. All these things going on. And the fascinating thing is the importance of bringing everybody together into this ceremony is that they all have their own, even though as humanity we're all connected, we're all one, we have lines, DNA strains of traditions. And so someone who's from, say, a straight Indian Mayan background will have a strand that goes back through to all of their ancestry and linked to all of those generations. Whereas if you have someone from a Jewish tradition, it's going to be a different thread, a different strand that goes back. Someone from, a Catholic background. So all of those people connect all of these strands together and come into the ceremony, and it brings in all of these ancestral ties. And when they start performing and doing what has come up through their tradition, which is an activation, whether it's a song or a drum beat or a dance step or a mantra or whatever, it's tied in some way to some. I mean, it was put into place hundreds or thousands of years for a reason, because it created a certain effect. It generated a certain frequency, a vibration that allowed an enlivenment or a contact. And so all of these things came together in this labyrinth or this geometry situation, and went on for about 45 minutes. And at one time we had 50 of these going on all over Mexico, synchronized once a month at the same time. And the experience was that people would have direct experience with their ancestors. They would have healings. They would just generally feel the energy. People would be walking the labyrinth, and as they're walking, if they wanted to go in and play a drum for a while, or they wanted to express, in meditation, or they wanted to do whatever, people would be coming and going in and out of these areas. And so the walkers were basically stirring the pot, so to speak. And this generated, it opened a portal and generated a frequency of unity that we believe went for hundreds and hundreds of miles, radius around the energy that was generated. So that's one example of some of the work we did. Some of these ceremonies went on all night long. But for me, it was very, very profound, because I had experiences, the kind of experiences that before I would have been, maybe 2 months in deep meditation and here just spontaneously through these, I call them technologies. I call them, frequency technologies, whether it's a drum beat, a dance step. I learned one indigenous man who is an amazing dancer and drummer. I'm not really coordinated. I never was. I wasn't a dancer in my youth or anything like that, much to girlfriends and my wife's dismay. But I was encouraged to try some of these native dance steps, and I was really, really impressed. The few times that I was able to actually coordinate myself and get the steps correct, the effect that it had on my total being, it was phenomenal. I mean, these steps aren't random. They're a technology. You do move this way and that way and do a certain thing, and it creates a vibratory effect. I mean, I guess the classic thing everybody ever heard about was the rain dance. I mean, that's literally true. Obviously it's a technology, it's a dance, it's a step, whatever, that moves energy, moves whatever, and can cause the rain. I saw this happen in India many years ago through a different tradition of Vedic pundits who do it through a vibration of sound, that they recite these very strange sounds, but they've spent a lifetime of perfecting these vibratory sounds. And I saw them make it rain. I mean, there was no doubt about it. It was a crystal clear, blue, blazing hot day, and everybody was suffering from the heat. And they cranked up these Vedic hymns or whatever, and started reproducing these sounds. And out of a blue sky, suddenly clouds appeared and it rained. And so I have no doubt that a rain dance or a healing dance, or whatever the specific purpose is a technology that is so advanced, we just don't have, yet the ability to understand it. And so one of the other tools that we used and still use are whistles. In Mexico, there's over 240 different types of whistles. They're called ocarinas. They're basically usually made from clay or wood, and they put out a different frequency pitch. Some of them are designed, to encourage crops to grow. Some are for specific healings. The ones we've worked with are 3 different frequencies that make connection with our ancestors and allow communication. And that's a technology, clear and simple, in my opinion. So we did a lot of that work at pyramid sites and here in Mexico before 2012. And we feel really opened up a lot of energy for the shift that took place. And in some way, my personal experience on several occasions, I believe, was that there were a great deal of souls, ancients who needed to be liberated from this past age energy to move forward into the next. And I believe that was a big part of our work. On one of our tours to the United States, we did this labyrinth ceremony in Washington, D.C. on the grassy lawn in front of the Vietnam Memorial. And that was a very, very, very powerful, liberating experience. So I hope that gives you some idea. It's very hard. It was an amazing time, and what we received from it were a number of gifts that came through this man in a channeled way. And because we were so closely connected with them, my wife and I felt our role at that time was to maintain the integrity of some of these things and to put them to use, also to take them outside of Mexico. And so even today, we use a lot of these technologies and tools that we received, and we feel they still have a broad application and can do a lot.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I've been doing lots of ceremonies with indigenous people from America. A couple of medicine men. One's a rainmaker, and another one specifically works with water and was taught a star pattern that he activates with crystals and stuff. For the water, he goes and heals area where the energy, bad things have happened to the water. That's his work. So a lot of these geometrical, ceremonial things that have a lot of frequency and energy activations are super powerful. And I recommend to anyone out there watching this, find one. Find one that's happening in your area and go. So I watched your emails come in when you guys were doing all that work and coming into the U.S. like 2012. And I just wasn't in the position to be able to go to any of these. And it's regrettable because I'm like, damn, that sounds so great. I wish I could have somehow managed to get there. The other thing too that I think people, watching indigenous people rainmaking is not so hard. It's easy to them, we think it'd probably be like something really epic and hard to do, but it's amazing at when you hit those right frequencies, how it just comes, out of nowhere, manifests itself, which makes you realize they're living beings as well. Those clouds are living beings. That water is living beings. Those droplets, the air that they're in is a living being, because you have to be a living being to be able to resonate in order to come together and make something like that happen, which goes with the indigenous people, that all things are living beings. So the other thing too, I'll have to talk to you more about, but it's the 200 whistles. I just really love that. Also, are you guys doing any of these ceremonies now. I noticed that you, oh, and the other thing too is that's the thing that I fell in love with you about over the emails was the word technology. Instead of ceremonies, you use the word technologies, like indigenous technologies. And that is a amazing word to really describe what it is and the functions of ceremonies. So are you guys doing ceremonies now or?
We are, but right now I'm focused on building actually. The labyrinth on the land that we're working with is, well, it's functional. It's not where I want it to be yet, but it's getting close. So we'll be having an opening ceremony for that here probably in the next month or 6 weeks. This is the first year in some time that we didn't actually make a tour to the United States. My wife and I, in the last 3 summers anyway, have traveled up and done workshops and speaking engagements and ceremony and that sort of thing. But we chose to not do that this year, and I'm trying to create a shift where the long-term plan is to bring people to us for several reasons. The establishment of this ceremonial center, the idea is for an activation to happen here in South Baja, because I believe the energy here is very, very important, not just locally, but for the whole world, and that it needs to be activated. And to bring people, and to do that, it takes people, which is what we learned. This physical body, nervous system that we have is an instrument. It's a divine instrument that it takes to do these activations, to run these technologies. We're basically energetic, divine machines. And so, to create a really big effect, you need as many people as possible. So the long-term plan is to bring people here, number one, for that purpose, which would be in the form of a week-long ceremonial event or weekend, those kinds of things. Also to establish, the center here, to have ongoing things, more frequently as far as the farm and other things tying in. But, my work at this moment has become very physical as far as I have to build the place for people to come to do this. My wife, is still teaching. She teaches, what's called the Maya vibration sound, which is very, very interesting. According to the ancient Maya, there's only 21 frequencies on this planet that come in. They come in on a daily basis through the galaxy, through the sun. And my wife's the one who teaches this, so could be a little inaccurate on a few of these things. But basically, this incoming frequency permeates everything on the planet. And if the day that you were born, there was a specific frequency that was coming into this planet and permeating everything, which means all the rocks, the minerals, every plants, everything. And so there's basically only 20 different codes of human beings that fall within these 20 different frequencies. And then there's something about the 21st, and I don't know about that. But she has learned to interpret through the person's birth date which frequency they were born into. And it's phenomenal what that means to that person's life. It can actually, it's just, the more I learn about it, and she's the teacher, but the little bit that I learn, it gets so precise that a person's code, what their personality traits and things are going to be. For instance, their weaknesses or their strengths or their tendencies and all of that sort of thing. So she still does that work over the internet, teaching people, giving them their sounds and what I call a reading, which she doesn't like, but I can't think of another word to describe it. To me, it's like a Mayan astrology. I say, well, it's based on their birth date, so it has to be like astrology, but it's very different from what people would think of as, normally as astrology, because it works from an ancient Mayan perspective. It's really quite fascinating. And she does that work. I will be revving up the ceremony here as we come into the new year, because I'll have some of the heavy work out of the way on the land. And I had hoped to have an international event in 2016. I don't know if we'll be ready to do that by then. I would like to, where we bring people over from the mainland Mexico, because as I said, the indigenous people of South Baja disappeared. They're extinct. So I will have to bring contacts from the mainland for the sweat lodges and the drummings and the dancing and the technologies. And if not 2016, definitely 2017, and we'll get the word out and hope as many people as possible can come, because it's going to work on the principle that I described in the labyrinth. It's from as many different backgrounds and cultures and philosophies and technologies as possible. And I really want to emphasize in there that the importance of the emerging new technologies that are happening all over the world. Because in traveling on these tours before 2012 that you were following on the internet and weren't able to attend, thousands of people did. And what we heard, I mean, it's just fascinating, the number of people who are involved in the awakening and who are in touch with amazing gifts and receiving incredible information and new ways of doing things. I mean, you see people out there combining all of these different forms of medicine and yoga and different traditions and coming up with completely new forms that work. Everything seems to work. It's a time where we're so connected that just with intention and honesty and being open to receiving, I believe very strongly in that prophecy. I used to quote it all the time in my workshops. We are the ones we've been waiting for. I believe that to the letter. I mean, I believe that at this day in the world, we are the new ancients, so to speak. We are receiving that level of information and technology, and it's time to put into place a whole new pattern and infrastructure of life on this planet. And doesn't mean old traditions are old and irrelevant. It just means they've come to their fruition, and now it's a time when they can be blended and support and for an emergence of something much greater even. Having the opportunity to work with some of the indigenous elders on the mainland just brought tears to my eyes on some occasions, because we actually were exposed to tribes where there were maybe 40 or 80 people left. And these old men would come in with assistance and they were so feeble, and then they would sit down, yet they still carried the songs or the drums or the instruments, and they still could carry it on. And I looked at them and I thought they survived the conquest, they survived poverty, they survived this influx of materialism and everything that's just destroyed the infrastructure of people's lives and tribes, and yet they've held on to this essence and they've like brought it to the finish line. You know, their job is done. They've done it. And on a couple occasions we were fortunate enough to bring them right alongside young people who weren't from any particular tradition, but who had received gifts and talents and just had coming out of them incredible music or incredible messages or things, and they just blended right together. It was just really wonderful. And so when we have our first big international gathering, we'll be inviting and looking for many people to come, bringing all sorts of new information and technology. I can't tell you, when we would travel and do expos and speaking engagements, and my wife and I would always have a table to help support the work of where we would sell indigenous jewelry and different things like that. And so we had an opportunity to really talk one-on-one with the general public that would come. And people would confide in us about the experiences that they were having in their lives, that they were afraid to tell their family about, or, but here in the context of whatever setting it was, whether it was a New Age expo or some kind of traditional thing, they felt comfortable to talk about something that their family might think was weird. And the number of people who are communicating with whales, they're in their dream life at night, they're going off with the whales and they're hearing their songs, and they're not just one, but when you hear that from 6 different people in 6 different cities, you have to say something's happening here. And people working with crystals, people working with different types of electronics, which is very, foreign to me, but yet coming up with these amazing healing machines and results. And so I believe it's time to bring all of these people together in a context where they can be supported and support each other, and be free to allow all of this to emerge without the confines of specific traditional or religious prohibitions or economic hardships or those kind of things, and have a full expression of it.
Well, when you do, make sure you email me in advance. So
I will.
I can put my buffalo on the road and get down there.
We're only about 13 hours from the border, so
only 13 hours.
Yeah.
So, I work with a lot of different people, kind of all over the world. Lately, tons of indigenous people, to where they're at. And one of the men I'm working with is a man in Africa who's a traditional healer who is also doing farming, trying to get people out of poverty. He does the old traditional, ceremonies, and he doesn't really speak English. He was on my show, but he's been emailing me back and forth. He's like, okay, we need to get like conferences together, so all of us that are doing this indigenous work, the work that, we want other people to know about. Like he would like to teach what he has, right, and offer it to people. And that we need. So lately I've been thinking about this brainstorming. I have no idea how it will come together, but I'm trying to brainstorm the possibility of a big conference like that, that maybe starts in Baja, then it goes over to Uganda, Africa, right? And then those people get to be part of it, and then goes to Russia and works with, the people there, and then maybe to China, and not that everybody has to go and not everyone has to come. And maybe some people that can go to head it off. But I was just thinking, like, how amazing that would be to be able to, and tape it, have it filmed wherever we go, being able to put that on a website so people can really see that we're not all that different.
Right.
And many of us are really, really trying to turn the ship around on this planet, and we're all working really, really hard. And we're all learning from each other, we're all being open, but I just, I don't know how it'll come together, but maybe just because I'm talking about it, maybe something amazing like that would happen, where we have this global conference that travels for just, a couple stops. Doesn't have to be like every country, but, maybe like 5 or 6 places in the world.
Oh, that should be very doable. We're on the same frequency there, because my goal with the Ceremonial Center, what I've seen from the beginning, is to bring people, because the vision that I have and the work that I've been given to do, I feel is not at all unique. I know that in many places around the world, there are people just like me who are doing the exact same thing. And probably a lot of them, like me, don't even know why fully, but they've been given this work to do. And my idea is to bring the people will come here and do these activations, which will open this area, but also whatever work they are doing from wherever they are from, it's also going to link. The ceremony that we do here is going to be connected to the work and the people that they are working with wherever they have come from. And it's going to just like shoot this ray of vibration that's going to enliven the area and the work that they're doing. So they're going to come here, which is going to benefit us in our area and the work that we're doing and for the world, but it's also directly going to impact the work that they're doing where they come from. And especially economically, I think if we work together, if we can have a successful model, say here in Baja, then the people who've come, because it tends to be the like-minded people in the same area of work, like you're talking about, we have a lot in common, who are the main participants, then we can move from here. We can just move the show, so to speak, the ceremony, to another location the following year or 6 months later. And then the model can be taken to another country or another location. And through that, we pool our resources, our collective, people who are in support of and want to do this work from one location to another. So we have like a global collection of communities all working at this same level, doing these same things. And then, of course, there's so many ways that support will happen in other areas. But for me, the primary goal is at the level of ceremony, because I learned working the work for 2012 is you can talk, you can teach, you can work on all types of levels, but it's very, very slow and it's very, very difficult, especially when the goal is unity and you're going to get a number of people in a group together, and they're not going to have the same backgrounds, they're not going to have the same beliefs, they're not going to have the same thinking and approach to just about anything, even though they all have the same desire for unity. How do you bring them together without wasting large amounts of time talking about things that really aren't going to move anything? But
I'm in total agreement with you, and I try to explain this to everyone I come in contact with, because even indigenous people, some of them don't get it. It's all about the ceremony has been passed down from the Star Nations, from the places before the people came here, a lot of them, the basis of all of them, so that we can heal, change, do whatever we need to do, because the ceremony is the catalyst, the energy for it.
And it's not on the level of thinking. It's not, we have to get out of the mind and into the heart. And ceremony is only about the heart. There is no mind in the ceremony. That's, you step out of the mind and you step into the heart. And there's no argument. There's no acceptance. There's no rejection. There's no judgment. It just simply is. And if you're accepting everyone's tradition, everyone's path as being valid, doesn't mean you're going to convert or adopt or need to believe in. It just means you're accepting their validity of who they are and what they're doing. And the more you learn about these technologies, it becomes obvious that they're all doing the same thing. They're all working. And it's just a joyful experience, even though it is work. And in Mexico, Mexico's a very special place and culture, in the sense that people here are very accustomed to working in a ceremonial way, putting themselves really physically and out there into what they feel is important. For instance, getting on a bus for 16 hours to go to some place for a ceremony. On any given equinox, or significant celestial date, there are literally millions of people in Mexico in ceremony at the various archaeological pyramid ancient sites. You only hear about Chichen Itza or Teotihuacan or the major ones, but they're scattered. There's I think over 4,000 pyramids here. And outside of every city, there are these sites, and on specific times, you'll see big numbers of people there. And, it's a work. You have to, you have to drop your schedule, you have to do you have to get out there, and you actually have to move your feet or move your voice or beat the drum or do whatever, come together in unity and then go home. It's not something you have to learn about, to lecture about, to teach, to understand. It's just something you have to bring your machine, your consciousness, your spirit, and put it into the pool with everybody else and generate this peace and this unity that humanity is all about. And I'd like to see that spread globally, and I believe Mexico is a very important part for that. I think the Maya received all this attention for 2012 because people recognized the fact that this was, this was an ancient culture that was really they had something. They had something. A lot of people don't realize this, but in 2012 you had NASA. You had a lot of scientific things going on in these pyramids in Mexico. They were aware that that energy was going to be happening, and it was going to be a global event. And so we need to, I believe, work with that and work in unity. No one group can do it, and we can't do it by judging each other and wanting to just adhere to one simple, single, narrow path. We have to be open to being new creations and a whole new culture emerging. And I believe the people are in place everywhere around the world. I just believe they're not in communication yet. I think it's something that's about to happen, and that we're making a lot of people are working hard right now to bring that about. And when it clicks, it's going to be even more fun than it has been so far.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Let's see, 2013, I was kind of like thrust out of my life, and I was thrown on the road to go do ceremonies, different places all over the place. And lately, probably within, I don't know, the last 6 months, I have a few ceremonies. I go do like the fire parts of the ceremonies, help out with that, different places. But I really feel like I'm void of ceremony. So I've really started to focus, since I can't go out and do ceremony with a lot of other people, I've really been trying to focus in on praying a lot more, doing my tobacco prayers, stopping myself before I get in the car, wherever I'm going. Like you said, just trying to really make my life into more of a sacred manner. So, giving the tobacco prayer before I get in my car to make sure everything's going to be okay and the spirits are going to receive me well. And, all of it is going to work together. And whatever is needed, or if somebody I feel is off, just trying to give prayers and ceremony, get out my drum. And I'm like you, I'm really terrible at the dancing part, and I'm really terrible with learning languages and trying to do a song. And, I'm so bad at it. I always tell people I don't want to curse the people because I don't really know what I'm saying. But I've really tried to personally work on, as many times in my daily life, trying to turn it into a ceremony. Get up in the morning, go put my hands up in the sun, thank the sun, grandfather sun, for shining his light upon me. Then I get on with my morning, because I think we're at a place where I think that we have to be kind of in kind of more of a ceremonial process. And even if we can't really connect with the whole thing, at least offering ourselves in a humble way, asking for guidance and help, and to be well received, and help to do the work that's necessary. So I know I'm not really living on land, and I don't really have a steady house because I'm still in my van, traveling around, which can be hard. So I have to really stop the chaos sometimes and remember.
You really have out there. That's wonderful. Thank you.
So I have to really, stop myself, because sometimes I get caught up in fear and anxiety and stress, kind of living on the road. So people should know out there that a ceremony can be anything. It can be like stopping yourself and singing Amazing Grace. It can be stopping yourself and, picking a rock up from the side of the road and talking to the rock and asking it to help ground you, or being out in nature and absorbing, the beautiful colors and giving respect back to the processes of trees, and what they do for us in our world. So lots of, get one of these. I want to get a couple of these whistles you're talking about, you could blow your whistle, when you need to. But yeah, ceremony for me, I've just learned I've been brought back to it. I've avoided it for a long time, did shamanism practice, kind of individual, and then have been brought back to ceremony in a really strong, hard way, and realized that nothing in my life was really going to work well without the ceremony. Getting back to the altered place where all things are possible and all potential is possible once I'm there in it.
Mm-hmm. I guess it's basic definition of ceremony for me would be anything that affirms that where we're affirming our connectedness to each other and to everything. It's just, it can't, like you said, it can be anything, and anything can be affirming that connection and reminding ourselves, and because through the affirmation of whatever it is, just whether it's saying the Hail Mary or talking to a rock or hugging a tree or beating a drum or whatever, if we do it with the intention, the conscious intention, then it's repeated, and it's done alone, or if it's done, I believe, with more people, even a second or a third or 100, 1,000, whatever, that in turn strengthens it. And I believe it makes a pattern in the fabric of the universe, so to speak. It imprints, so it becomes, then you can say ceremony. But these are difficult times for a lot of people because of the changing frequencies and the frequencies that have now settled in and in place, and if we're not resonating and vibrating at that same frequency, it's a real rocky, rough road, and ceremony of any type is one of the things that just like a tuning fork puts us into that vibration and raises our vibration, puts us into a higher frequency where we can smooth out the ride in these times, because I look around, I see people are all over the place. I did want to mention, and I so respect what you're doing. There's people out there, particularly young people today, who have just made such a commitment to a new life and leading living in a higher frequency. And it means they've had to say no to basically all of the safety and security nets that might be there for them in terms of regular work or career or even relationship, physical location, all of those things. And yet they're steadfast in saying, I don't know what form it's going to take. I don't know where the road's going to lead, but I'm certain of these things that will not do. Whereas in my generation and people of my generation's journey, we kind of had a foot in both worlds, and we could fall back and go forward, and we could drag a bit of a security net with us, and maybe in physical form, economic form, even just in our own mental construct. But today I see there's this new emerging generation that is totally without that. I mean, out there just winging it. And it's to those people that I think the original inspiration came to me for this ceremonial center, because the world isn't quite there yet. The support system hasn't manifested in the physical yet. Everybody, we can feel it, we can see it, we can touch it in another dimensional sense, even though it's here right in front of us. The swing, the curve hasn't taken place yet that it's actually, going to pay the bills or be an easy ride yet. And I think I'm hopeful that's about to change, but not without a lot of work, I don't think. And, one thing that we learned and talked a lot about in the years for 2012 was the role of women these days. According to the Maya, this shift of the age went from masculine to feminine, and it's clear to us, my wife and I, everywhere we look, that it's borne out. Women are really the major players today. They receive the information first before the men. They're awakening more quickly. They're more receptive. They're more open, because of the feminine energy that it's packaged in for this particular age that we've now entered into. And not that men aren't, I mean, we're all masculine, feminine. We all have both. But, in my own life, I perk up and listen closely to women now. I look for the women leaders, because my experience in the last 4 or 5 years has been it's going to waste a lot less of my time. If I get in with, say, a group of men leaders, there's still going to be a lot of this old masculine energy going on, where there's a lot of mental stuff and a little bit of ego and that sort of stuff, whereas women are just cutting straight to the heart. I mean, it's just, and so we've been saying for some years now, the most important thing is follow your heart, follow your impulses, you get a thought about something and it doesn't seem logical or doesn't seem to fit into the context of who you think you are or what you're doing. Pay attention to it, because it's coming from somewhere.
And if you can follow a grandma, follow the grandma. Because she knows exactly what's going on and where you need to be. That's what the indigenous people always tell me. Like the grandma, you follow the grandma, she's the all-powerful and all-knowing, and never backtalk that grandma. Sit down and listen to that grandma, because she knows it all.
I think that's true.
For sure. And you see that right now. You see grandmothers from all walks of life, making these groups together, like Grandmothers Speak, who I think some of them are non-indigenous. And then you've got the 13 grandmothers who are indigenous from 13 nations. So you see a lot of these grandmothers that are standing up, and they're getting their sass and game on and going out there and telling it like it is, and really drawing big audiences, which is a really good thing. Because we need some women who know what it is to be women, to help us, the other women, to know where we need to be. Because a lot of this money and this Hollywood image and a lot of these images are not really healthy for women. That's not really who we are. We're the carriers of all the earth medicine, so we have to really make sure that we're more in touch with earth and the natural processes of earth, and also our natural processes that are inside of our body, which can be a lot more complicated. People always say, women are complicated. Yeah, but it's because we have all these things going on simultaneously. I'm getting a download. I'm trying to hold the baby. I'm trying to put the groceries away. I'm trying to get it all figured out all at once.
Right. Well, women have that intuitive connection that's been acknowledged through the days, and really the high things going on.
Hold on one second, James. I think your Skype has slowed down. Hold. Amazing producer and see if he can help out with the situation. Hello, Kat. Hold on, let's see what we have here. Okay. Okay, so
Sound good now?
it's getting a little bit better. Still looking for your video. Okay. Anyway, so let me get back over here just to be like that. Okay, it looks like you're going out too. Okay. Oh, hey, you're making a comeback.
Oh, you can hear my voice.
I can hear your voice. I can hear you. Okay, so what do you think is like the most important if you're going to tell somebody to focus, what would you tell them to focus in on right now?
Oh boy, that's a good one, because I think now is time for that, for sing and move. About it or not, hearing that makes me feel like I didn't see what was going to happen. Let me just a little background on my perspective with the see things. As I was saying earlier about people who have kind of have unplugged from all of the old patterns of living and evolving and that sort of thing, all the old energy ways of doing things, and we've been involved with so many different types of people, levels of and judge in play in the craft is the drugs. Part of has been that. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you just go ahead and repeat a little bit of background from where your perspective is? So could you a little bit and repeat that?
Sure.
Okay.
I was saying, in working with so many different people over these past 5 or 7 years, particularly, we found ourselves in a number of different situations and always striving for unity and accepting everyone and loving everyone right where they are. Something that continually has come up for us in a logistical working sense has been the proliferation of drug use, particularly, and I won't even say particularly in young people anymore because everybody's getting older. And its acceptance in all seems to in all and it's a struggle for us to how do you invite everybody in a time where so many drugs as a healthy tool.
Are we disconnected?
Nope, we're still there. It's just kind of going in and out. So I'm just trying to talk to my producer real quick about
Okay.
just about what's going on. Just because we want to make sure and get, everything. I think that it's probably your Wi-Fi, on your end.
Well, it's the time of day where everybody gets on and the signal gets weak here.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know, because if I have you back on, I want to make sure and have you go earlier in the day, right?
Yeah. It's predictable as those things are.
Okay.
But what
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm saying, I've been for the last many years, the drug phenomenon is to remain at a level of sanity in the just connection and frequencies. And you don't accept everybody right where they are. But in recent months, I traveled to the States and was able to spend some time with some people. And I see people starting to emerge. It's like emerging from a cloud. And I've come to a conclusion to speak about it because I do not believe that people can move forward to where we're going in a drug, or I could say a self-medicated state. That's something that is a passing phenomenon, and that the people that we are looking for to do this work are people who come to that point where they have clarity and ready to move forward. Not that people who are self-medicating aren't moving forward. Everybody's on their own path. Everybody is getting where they're going in on time. I believe, but
Oh, good.
can you hear me?
Yeah. It's kind of like, oh, okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to kind of reiterate what you, just part of what you just said, in case it didn't really come through. A lot of people have been doing a lot of, and not, we could say not just, illegal drugs, but pharmaceutical drugs, of all different, a lot of drugs that, have them to no self, kind of to in a path where they're sleeping. And you're talking about, people getting off of these substances and moving forward, and to be able to do some of this work, coming out of the medication, and so that they can do more of the ceremonial work and frequency work, and because it isn't really compatible. And I know from working with medicine people who do the peyote dreaming ceremonies, for medicine, and they'll tell you that the altar of that medicine is not compatible with, say, marijuana. It's not a compatible altar. It doesn't fit into the same category. So they don't really like those medicines being used. There's also the medicine, if you are going into dreaming, you use it for medicine in a sacred way, not just, take drugs so that you just, stare at the ceiling for the next 7 days, kind of a thing. And so people are starting to kind of come out of a drug slumber. The last time that you were in America, you noticed a difference?
Yes, which makes me encourages me to speak about it, because I think sometimes people just need to hear something that's wrong for everyone else to say. I've seen some people, the first time it really took my attention was moving. Are we connected?
Yeah, well, we're still kind of coming in and out. And it's kind of a bummer. I'm kind of bummed out.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's all right. I think that most of the information that we needed that were really important has come through. I know when I first started talking to you, I started watching this purple light flow behind you. So I knew that your spirit was getting out and getting the information. And I definitely want to have you on again. Maybe next time we can do like a pre-record, so it's not during your guys' busy time on your Wi-Fi, which would be really good for you. And I want to have you back on when you're closer to having this ceremony, so that we can also help put the information out for the ceremony. You know, like so if you can email me and before then and say, hey, you know, we're going to be having the ceremony. This is the date for it. I would just love to have you back on, and I would love to have more. Really excited about getting to know you and your wife, and hopefully being able to travel down there eventually and see what you have going on. Would really be excited about that.
Hey, what next? I'll take my advice and win. She's a powerful, wonderful woman who has a lot to communicate. It's really much more from the heart than I still speak from the mind. So I always tell people you benefit more from this advice than you do from me.
Yeah, you know, and come on with you like the next show would be great. I love when people do that. They kind of sandwich in with their significant other on my show. It turns out to be really some really good shows. And I'll showcase like what a healthy relationship is. A lot of us that are doing this work, that we have a partner that we're doing it with, there's a and respect, and people get to see that with the couple if they're both on talking and communicating, and you can see the gestures and highlight that as well. Like, this is what our relationships are supposed to be like. You know, pretty important. So, well, I'm going to let you go because I know that it's getting late there, and your Wi-Fi is busy with lots of things where you're at, and so I'm going to let you go, and you can go ahead and hang up on the red button. I'll definitely have you back on the show soon, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much, James. Thank you. I loved having you. Sure.
Bye.
Thank you.
I love being here. Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right. Hey, so big shout out today. Sorry, the South Baja, the second part of the show got really busy, and their internet and everything slowed down, which is good. Next time I have them on, we're going to be talking about this giant universal ceremony that they're going to be having on the land. So we're going to be putting that out for information, and I'm going to do everything that I can to actually get down there for that ceremony. And as they get their website and pictures and everything together, hopefully they'll email me in the future, and I'll be able to provide that information somewhere down the road. So today is Thursday. Conscious of Economics TV show is on every Thursday at 4 p.m. live on the Project Camelot TV network. Sorry we didn't get to really finish with James Needham. and his center down in southern Baja that they are building, and going to have this amazing ceremonial center and teaching ceremony, and I can't wait. So glad that I've been able to connect with him. And so just want to give kind of a momentary talk before I head out. Wanted to give you guys a spiritual practice that you could do for the next week. And it is a way that you can energetically charge your chakra systems. We had, in 1995, we got a new set of chakras to help balance out our other chakras in our body. I actually have a video on that on my YouTube channel about that. So we're just kind of go over them real quick, what kind of chakra bodies we're talking about. The chakras are actually attached to the spinal column. The spinal column is like a radio system. It's going up and down, and the energy's coming in and out. We take in energy from the earth upflow, and we take in energy from the universe downflow through the body. So it depends on, there's no right or wrong. If you want to bring energy up and through, or if you want to bring energy out and down and through back into the earth, you're the antenna. There's no right or wrong. Sometimes if I need to be more grounded, I'll work with the energy coming up and through. If I need more insight, I might pull through and down. So with the acquired chakras since 95, which most of us, they aren't fully activated, and sometimes I think it's because we just don't have enough power in our energy field to actually activate them fully. There's the root chakra. Then there is the second chakra, front and back. The BB chakra, which is front and back in the belly. There's the third chakra, which is in the solar plexus, front and back. There's the heart chakra, which is in the front and back. We also, on the right-hand side, acquired what's called the secondary heart chakra. It's also front and back. We also have a spleen chakra now that comes out from underneath the armpit. It's a one-coner to help with our body and a lot of the toxicities on this planet. We have the throat chakra that used to be front and back but split. The back part of it is actually at the base of our head, and it's called the throat of God or the mouth of God. It's where our more telepathic abilities are coming from. We also have the third eye chakra, which is front and back. And then we developed a chakra on top of that that is called the seventh eye chakra, front and back. And then we have our crown chakra. Okay, so we have all those nice little energy bodies. A rainbow color of energy bodies and frequencies. So this practice is super simple. It's kind of just a modified generating power into the chakra systems, the energy body. And all it is anytime, you can actually do it in the morning. Morning time is best. But any time of the day that you're tired, all you have to do is you have to step out into the sunlight and allow the sunlight to penetrate your head and allow the sunlight to move through your body and through your energy fields, right? Move through your spine and let it charge up. Add energy to all your chakras, and you can kind of imagine what it's doing. You know, imagine the sunlight going through your head. Oh, third eye chakra. Ooh, got some energy in there. Coming down through the throat chakra. Oh, it's pulsating. I got energy through there. Into the heart chakra. Into the solar plexus. Into the second chakra. Into the root chakra. Down into the ground. Grounding that sunlight. Bringing that sunlight energy through you. And into the earth is a good thing. You can go on with colors if you want. It's not really necessary. The key is to charge yourself up, just like you're plugging in to a light socket. That few minutes, few seconds that you're charged into that sunlight, allowing that sunlight to fill your energy bodies and get you charged back up for the day. So try that, see if you like it. Modify it in any way that you like. If you have any interesting experiences about it, please feel free to give me an email. Always interested in hearing people's experiences or ways that they've modified generating power, charging up their systems. Just really love that kind of work. So anyway, this is Bridgette Lyn Dolgoff. This has been a Consciousness of Economics TV show on the Project Camelot Network, Thursdays, 4 p.m. live Pacific. Our guest was James Needham, and the connection got a little bit sketchy, so we had to let him go, but we're having him come back on because we want to hear about that ceremony, and hopefully we can all get down there and be part of it. And with that, thanks so much for watching. And if there's anything that specifically people or information that you think would be good on this show, you can also email me and let me know. And we can see what we can do about getting that up on the show. All right. Thanks so much. I'm Bridgette Lyn Dolgoff, and have a great night. Good night.
you.